Look at my Star Trek toys!
Playmates finally wrote us back with only a little bit of info.
Yes, they did. Well, I mean, to be fair, they answered all the questions that I asked. If we have a little bit of info, it's because I didn't ask, enough questions.
We're still learning
but we
too.
That's true. That's true. The investigative journalism that you come here for, as opposed to a couple of nerds talking about Star Trek toys. So we have heard back from Playmates Toys, specifically about the Prodigy figures that they announced last week. We're very excited about, and we had some basic questions here. And so I have some answers to that and some combined answers for this and the other main STU line, which is pretty exciting. So first off, very simply, for the Prodigy figures, what are they going to retail for? And it's going to be $12.99, which is, I think, pretty reasonable. We talked about it with the other line. So, $12.99. That's, of course, if you end up buying all 5 or 6 of them, you're going to be out a fair amount of $100 or so. But that, I suppose, that's the nature of the beast these days. But honestly, I mean, I feel like that's pretty reasonable. Yeah, Mike?
Reasonable and also comprehensive with their other lines. So, we get it.
Consistent.
We like it. Yeah.
We'll take it. Our next question was, this is a question for both the Prodigy and the STU lines.
Okay.
And this is one that we've gotten a couple of times in our comments below. So if you ask this question, here is your answer. And that is, will these be sold in stores worldwide? I.e., will they be retailed in Europe and the UK? And as opposed to, like, in the stores, as opposed to having to do it via mail order, because there's a lot of question about the shipping once you start going into Europe. And I have good news, because the answer is yes. They will be sold in stores in Europe and the UK. So I think that's great news for a lot of our viewers. Huzzah. And that's for both lines, which is good. This next question is also for both lines, for the Prodigy and the regular lines. And this is another big question people had. Will these figures come with stands and accessories? Where are our choking hazards? Are we going to get our choking? I guess I probably shouldn't call them choking hazards now that they're contemporary toys. Let's say accessories. Ready for it, Mike?
I'm ready.
Yes, they will be sold with stands and accessories, which is great news. Both the Prodigy line and the Star Trek Universe line will have stands, will have accessories. Great news. My next question, did Varner Studios do the sculpts for the Prodigy line? We already knew the answer to this question, but turns out our intelligence was reliable. Yes, Varner Studios did indeed do the sculpts for this line. Question number 5. When are you planning to show the Janeway figure? Because that was one that they had announced, but we didn't see the figure in the reveal. And so, I mean, I certainly want to know what the Janeway figure is going to look like. And go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, it's curious, too, because we talked about on our last Customs episode, which dropped also today. Check it out. We got to see some of our custom artists do the cartoon universe, and we've seen Varner's cartoon universe in the stills, but Janeway sort of is a bridge, right? She kind of crosses from both universes.
Well,
so
that's
how
right.
will they portray it?
She is a CGI rendering of a hologram of a real character on the show. So there's a lot of different layers there. But I imagine it's probably going to look pretty friggin' cool.
So when are we getting it?
So we are getting it later in 2022. So vague, but we have TikTok 9 more months to see when Janeway happens. So the last question, which was also sort of answered, and that is, will there eventually be a ship line? And In the release, they said there will be. This is a little bit more vague. This says there may be a Prodigy ship and or other vehicles for 2023. So any vehicles or ships or that sort of a thing won't be coming until 2023. So
do people buy the toys?
Do
Will we make
people buy
money?
the toys? That is, I mean, really, we can answer all of our questions however we want them to be based on what we buy, because we live, it's commerce, it's art, but it's also commerce. Yeah, so I frankly am very encouraged by all of this information, especially for our friends across the pond, that they will be able to hop into the store and purchase these in their hands without having to ship them across the pond, as well as stands and accessories, because my cat keeps knocking my figures off of the shelf, and those stands really come in handy because they at least have some buffer of defense to an annoyed cattail.
Yeah, really cool world we're living in, Keith. Whereas back in the 80s when we were kids, right, the toys were the main property. They then created the cartoons to match the toys as sort of marketing for the toys. And now we've come full circle where actually the show proper, the cartoon proper is the launching point for the toys.
Precedes the toys. Yeah. Well, no, it's funny. I have almost a complete set of the G.I. Joe comic books behind me, which became a pretty good comic book for a while and very sort of different than the toy line, but it was created exclusively to sell toys. And then, of course, we could just go far afield here, and we're not going to waste your time, but it always blew my mind that in the G.I. Joe comic book, which was created to sell toys as an advertising piece, and then you have a crossover, you have a G.I. Joe character, toy, and character in the comic book, Sergeant Slaughter, which was based on a professional wrestling character, which then became canon as an official G.I. Joe. It's very confusing.
Well, we can go down the warp hole because they were also, remember, they were developing the WWE Superstars television cartoon as well. I think I mangled the name of that, but that one... Look, we could have a whole nother podcast.
Well, it's WWF back then. It wasn't WWE. No, for sure.
All right. Well, flagged or whatever. So, are you excited, everybody? What other questions do you have? Keith has a direct line to Playmates, giving him that hot gossip of vague answers, but we'll get them.
Let me tell you, and by direct line, I mean I emailed the press agent who emails Playmates, so it is not in any way a direct line.
We're the podcast version of telephone, and we're enjoying every second of it.
We really are. Okay, so that's it. If you have any other questions, drop a question below. We will circle back to Playmates whenever I feel like it won't be annoying to keep bothering them. But give us a like and subscribe.
It's your job to be annoying.
I've for hours and hours every week on the internet. But if you appreciate this information, do us a big favor. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, do all the regular stuff. It really, really helps us and keeps us doing the nonsense we are doing. We will see you back next week with a regular episode. Till then, I'm Keith. That's Mike. This has been...
Look at my Star Trek toys!
Boom.